on March 6th through 8th. Our mission is to replace hate with understanding and build a bridge between theater and social justice.
On October 6, 1998, a 21-year-old university student in Laramie, Wyoming was the victim of a hate crime because he was gay. His name was Matthew Shepard.
In response to this event, a theater company from New York would travel to Laramie, Wyoming several times and conduct over 200 interviews.
The people you are about to meet are from those interviews. Every word in this play is true.
Laramie resident Zubaida Ullah, Islamic feminist.
I've lived in Laramie since I was 4. Yeah, my parents are from Bangladesh. 2 years ago, because I'm Muslim, I decided to start wearing a scarf. That's really changed my life in Laramie. Yeah, like, people say things to me like, why do you have to wear that thing on your head? Like, when I go to the grocery store, I'm not looking to give people Islam 101, you know what I mean? So I'll be like, well, it's part of my religion, and they'll be, this is the worst part. Because they'll be like, I know it's part of your religion, but why? And it's, how am I supposed to go into the whole doctrine of physical modesty and my own spiritual relationship with the Lord, standing there with my pop and chips? You know what I mean? You know, it's so unreal to me that, yeah, that a group from New York would be writing a play about Laramie. Rebecca Hilliker, talking to Moises Kaufman of the New York Theater Company. Rebecca is head of the theater department here at the University of Wyoming.
I must tell you that when I first heard you were thinking of coming here, when you first called me, and I wanted to say you just kicked me in the stomach. Why are you doing this to me? But then I thought that's stupid, you're not doing this to me. And more importantly, I thought about it and decided that we've had so much negative closure on this whole thing. And the students really need to talk. When this happened, they started talking about it, and the media descended, and all dialogue stopped. You know, I really love my students because they are free thinkers. And you may not like what they have to say, and you may not like their opinions because they can be very redneck, but they're honest and they're truthful. So there's an excitement here. There's the dynamic here with my students that I never had when I was in the Midwest or North Dakota, because there was so much Puritanism that dictated how people looked at the world that a lot of the times they didn't have an opinion. You couldn't get them to express an opinion. And quite honestly, I'd rather have opinions that I don't like and have that dynamic in education. Allison Mears and Marge Murray, 2 longtime Laramie residents.
Well, Laramie used to be like when March was growing up. Well, it was mostly rural.
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed it, you know, my kids all had horses.
There was more land. I mean, you can keep your pet cow, your horse, your chickens, you know. Just have a little bit of acreage.
Yeah. I could run around the house with my all-togethers, do the housework while the kids are in school, and nobody could see me. And if they got that close.
Then that's their problem.
Yeah.
This was a big railroad town at one time, before they moved everything to Cheyenne, Green River, and Omaha. So now, well, it's just a drive-through spot for the railroad. But here in Laramie, if it weren't for the university, it'd just be SOL.
What's SOL?
Well, do I have to say it? Well, it's shed plug. Oh, Lordy, you've got that on your tape? Oh boy, you're getting an education today.
Romaine Patterson.
Personal friend of Matthew Shepard.
Marge, your cigarettes. Well, we never called him Matthew, actually. Most of the time we called him Choo-Choo. You know, because we used to call him Matthew, and then we just called him Choo-Choo. And whenever I think of Matthew, I always think of his incredible beaming smile. I mean, he'd walk in and he'd be like, you know, and he'd smile at everyone. He just made you feel great. And he would like stare people down in the coffee shop because he always wanted to sit on the end seat so that he could talk to me while I was working. And if someone was sitting in that seat, he would just sit there and stare at them until they left, and then he would claim his spot. But Matthew definitely had a political side to him. I mean, he really wanted to get into political affairs. That's all his big interest was watching CNN and MSNBC. I mean, that's the only TV station I ever saw his TV tuned into. He was just really smart in political affairs, but not too smart on like common sense things. So he moves to Laramie to go to school. Doc O'Connor, limousine driver.
Well, on the 2nd of October, I get a phone call about 10 after 7. It was Matthew Shepard. So, anyhow, I pull up to the corner to see who? Matthew Shepard, you know? It's a little guy, about 5'2", soaking wet, I bet you 97 pounds tops. They say he weighed 110, but I wouldn't believe it. So, he walks up to the window, and I say, "Are you Matthew Shepard?" And he says, "Yeah, I'm Matthew Shepard, but I don't want you to call me Matthew, or Mr. Shepard. I don't want you to call me anything. My name is Matt, and I want you to know I am gay." Matt Galloway, bartender at the Fireside Bar.
Okay? I'm going to make this brief, quick, get it over with. But it will be everything. Factual, just the facts. Here we go. 10 o'clock, I clock in, usual time, Tuesday nights. 10:30, Matthew Shepard shows up. Alone. Sits down, orders a Heineken. So, what can I tell you about Matt? If you had 100 customers like him, it'd be the most perfect bar I've ever been in, okay? And nothing to do with sexual orientation. Absolute mannerisms, manners, politeness, intelligence, taking care of me, as in tips, everything. Conversation, dress nice, clean cut. Some people you just know. Sits down, please, thank you, offers intellect, you know? Within their vocabulary. So he kicks it there. Didn't seem to have any worries or like he was looking for anyone. Just enjoyed his drink and the company around. Now, approximately 11:45, 11:30, 11:45, Aaron McKinney and Russell Henderson come in. I didn't know their names then, but they're the accused. They're the perps, they're the accused. They walked in just very stone-faced, you know? Dirty, grungy, rude, gimme, that type of thing. They would come up to the bar and, as you know, paid for a pitcher with dimes and quarters, which, I mean, is something you don't forget. You do not forget that. $5.50 in dimes and quarters. That's a freaking nightmare. Now, Henderson and McKinney didn't seem intoxicated at all. They just ordered a beer, took it with them back there into the pool room, and kept to themselves. Next thing I knew, probably a half hour later, they were kind of walking around. No beer, and I remember thinking to myself that I'm not going to ask them if they want another one. Obviously, they just paid for a pitcher with dimes and quarters. I have a real good feeling they don't have any more money.
Well, I took off on my bicycle about 5 p.m. on Wednesday for my dorm.
Aaron Kreifels, university student.
I just kind of felt like going for a ride. So I went up to the top of Cactus Canyon, and I'm not super familiar with that area. So on my way back down, I didn't know where I was going. I was just sort of picking a way to go, which now
it just makes me think that God wanted me to find him, because there's no way that I was going to go that way. So I was in some deep, deep sand, and I wanted to turn around, but for some reason I kept going. And I went along, and there was this rock on the ground, and I drilled it. I went over the handlebars and ended up on the ground. So I got up, and I was just kind of dusting myself off. And I was looking around, and I noticed something, which ended up to be Matt. And he was just lying there by a fence. And I just thought it was a scarecrow. But when I saw hair, well, I knew it was a human being.
I was working the emergency room the night Matthew Shepard was brought in.
Doctor can't wait, attending physician.
I don't think any of us can remember seeing a patient in that condition for a long time. Those of us who've worked in big city hospitals have seen this before, but we have some people who've not worked in a big city hospital, and it's not something you expect to see here. Now, the strange thing is, 20 minutes before Matthew came in, Aaron McKinney, one of the perpetrators, was brought by his girlfriend. And at this point, I don't know that there's a connection at all. Then, 2 days later, I found out the connection, and I was very struck. They were 2 kids. They were both my patients, and they were 2 kids. I took care of both of them, of both their bodies, and I felt a great deal of compassion for both of them.
I'm Stephen Meade Johnson, Unitarian minister. This is Father Roger, Catholic priest, who is well established here, and God bless him. He did not equivocate at all when this happened. He hosted the vigil for Matthew that night.
I was really jolted because when we did the vigil, we wanted to get other ministers involved, and we called some of them, and they weren't going to get involved. And it was like, we're going to sit back and see which way the wind is blowing. That angered me immensely. We're supposed to stand out as leaders. I thought, wow, what's going on here? And I'm not going to sit here and say I was this old guy, no fear. I was scared. I was very vocal in this community when this happened. I thought, should we call the bishop and ask his permission to host the vigil? Then I thought, hell, no, I'm not going to do that. His permission doesn't make it correct. And I'm not knocking bishops, but what is correct is correct.
I arrived in Laramie on September 15th. I looked around, tumbleweed, cement factory, and said, what in the hell am I doing in Wyoming? 3 weeks later, I found out what the hell I'm doing in Wyoming.
Our focus today turns to Laramie, Wyoming, and the Albany County Courthouse, where Aaron James McKinney and Russell Arthur Henderson are being charged for the brutal beating of Matthew Shepard, a gay University of Wyoming student. Folks from all around the country are gathering, seeking justice for Matthew.
I think right now our most important teachers must be Russell Henderson and Aaron McKinney. They have to be our teachers.
I'll tell you what. If they put those 2 boys to death, that would defeat everything Matt would be thinking about on them. Because Matt would not want those 2 to die. He'd want to leave them with hope. H-O-P-E. Just like how the whole world hopes that Matt survives. The whole thing. You see, the whole thing ropes around hope. H-O-P-E.